So a quick question right off the bat.
Yeah.
We were talking about virtual instruments last week and about programming um, inside the Eigenharp itself to create a virtual instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, I'm going to ask Mike this question also, but it kind of dawned on me that maybe that's one of the reasons why all of you guys are out there searching for other sounds that are already created, is so you don't have to go through the hassles of trying to program something from scratch.
Well, I think that not many people actually, you remember when we said there are different ways of programming?
Yep.
The most complicated way, which is actually using a programming language, there's not many people that actually can do that.
Right, and I can't do that. So.
Even I have got a lot of trouble with that, because I'm not really a DSP expert, so digital signal processing expert. Meaning that really I wouldn't know even how to start writing a synth in C++. Yeah, I know where to start, but I don't know where it will end. writing a synth in C++. And then, even the level above that, we're just aggregating existing agents so that they work well together and give you interesting sound. It takes a lot of research and perseverance to kind of get somewhere. Which is, yes, why a lot of us just buy audio units or VSTs or use external hardware that is, even in that case, driven from MIDI. Because there are companies like Modart who makes PianoTeq. They only have one product, and they've been doing that for 10 years. Just one piano instrument that they've been programming for as long as that. So it does take. It's like a product on its own. Which is one thing that we hope with EigenD is that people would eventually start writing actually plugins that work better with EigenD straight off the bat as agents instead of you going over AUs and VSTs. Hey, Mike.
Hey, morning.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
So, Garrett, what brand sustain pedal do you use or do you like?
I like none of them. I've got this one. It works, which is something. It's the Yamaha one. It's the FC3. Yamaha FC3. Problem is that I've already got two of those, and I think Mike has got the whole set of pedals that is based off of that, and they all squeak.
Yeah.
It's just impossible to get this to work without squeaking, which is okay if you don't use a microphone, but if you use a microphone, it is very irritating. So yes, I've had it picking up. If I use a condenser microphone, I basically can't use those pedals. It's out of the question.
So is there any pedal that doesn't squeak or that works well?
I haven't found it yet. Hey, Larry.
Oh no. Hi, Larry.
If someone has some ideas about that, I'd be very happy, because I've been looking and searching. And the thing about this Yamaha pedal is that it mimics the traditional piano with there is a spring in here where it actually gives you that resistance and gradual progressive control over what you do with the pedal. It's not on off or what you have with a volume pedal where there is no resistance, where you basically smoothly slide from top to bottom. This one springs back, which is kind of what you want for a sustain pedal. But it's the only one that I know of that does it like that.
And the model number is?
FC3.
FC3 no work.
I'm using a M Audio expression pedal, which doesn't have the spring. It's more like a volume pedal.
Exactly.
But it plugs in and it works okay, but you just have to remember to push it the other way.
Yeah. Hey, Dragica.
Hello.
So today I'm not streaming on live stream, but I'm recording this in HD, I guess, with Camtasia. So we'll see how that goes. Better, so that we can have better quality for people catching up after the Clubhouse. They'd be able to download it also. I've got some requests for that, so that people could watch it during their commute or something like that. So on the other hand, everything that is visible will be much better recognizable. So yes.
Hangouts still don't have a automatic button to record on yet. They talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, like months even. It's called Hangouts on Air. I think they're just gradually rolling it out for the big names, and I don't know when it's actually going to be publicly available. I'd love to do it with that though, because what happens now is you see my screen, which means that as you know how Google Plus automatically shows the image of this that corresponds to the sound that is active. Well, people never see me actually. You never see me talk because it never highlights me, which is logical because it records from my perspective. Okay, Garritan. Yeah. Well, if you've got something to say, just type it. Yeah, Mike, you have another pedal there?
It's actually another Yamaha pedal, and it has the disadvantage that it sits where you actually have to work it, right?
Yes.
Like it doesn't, it's not spring loaded, but it has the advantage that it doesn't make any noise.
Oh.
Well, the Boss ones is the Boss one that I have is also very good for that. It doesn't make any noise either, but it's an expression pedal. It's not a sustain pedal.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's strange because I pulled this thing apart. I don't know how many times trying to look for what it could be, and it's so ridiculously simple on the inside. It's just a spring with something that it leans against, and it's filled with grease. It's just, I don't know how much they put in there, but it's like filled up with the stuff. So I don't really see how it could squeak, but it does. I think it might be when it's not totally aligned in the middle and it kind of scrapes a little bit against the sides. I think that might be it, but it's difficult to fix though. That fellow we're gonna invite.
Oh, Drakatha, and I ran into somebody, and I can't remember his name. So I guess he's not getting an invite.
If you can't remember his name, it will be difficult. So you've been working on with your synth, Larry?
Yeah, can you see it in the back here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I even had some little speaker stands because the speakers quit working, and it elevates and tilts it a little bit so it's easier to use. I am amazed at this thing, this Shruthi one. I mean, not only its size, but the sound quality is just amazing. I mean, I'd heard samples and some YouTube and things like that and SoundCloud, but until I was actually playing, I'm just playing it through a little Roland, I don't know, probably a 60-watt amp with a 10-inch speaker and a tweeter. So it's, it's not even turned up that much, but the sound is really full and rich and very responsive. I'm just on my keyboard right now, but I'm really amazed. And he comes with over 100 presets, so you don't have to, make up your own to start off with.
So
of course, you can modify those.
Which filter did you get?
The SMR4.
They announced a new one, I think, right?
They have 4 others or 5 others, and they just came out with a prototype variant of the SMR4, which works kind of the same way. It has less trimming potentiometers on it, and a few less components, but it's the same basic design, I think.
I've been looking at it. I've been thinking of just getting 4 of those to get a 4-channel polyphonic thing going on. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, that will work too. Right now you're kind of tied to MIDI in for notes and stuff, but all the parameters on the filters and the VCAs and so forth are voltage controlled, and you can access those on the filter board. So it wouldn't be too hard to make a little connector. I mean, there's already a place on the circuit board to install one, and so then you could break that out, and then you could run voltage control if you wanted to do it that way.
I'd probably just do it over MIDI at first.
Yeah, MIDI works fine. I mean, we're all kind of down on MIDI a little bit, but when you get right down to it, it works pretty good. Until someone comes up with a widespread alternative that's easy to work with. That's what we're kind of stuck with in a lot of ways.
Have you tried using 14-bit MIDI with the Shruthi?
I don't think it recognizes that.
Okay, yeah.
But I'll have to dig into it further. Now the thing is, it's all open source code that runs the microprocessor in it.
Yeah, I saw that. It's
so I would guess you could probably write your own code if you wanted to take advantage of that.
Yes,
I've noticed that just what you wanted to do, right? You aren't writing enough software.
Yes. I think I've got enough to do with the Eigenharp itself.
Yeah. But you can program the MIDI out on the Shruthi so you can daisy chain the Shruthis together.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when you want to go polyphonic, I mean, you just keep daisy chaining your MIDI ins and outs and make a setting on in the global unit settings, and you're all set.
I've been looking at that, and then you kind of been going back and forth. What I wanted to get into with the analog stuff. It's difficult to make up your minds. there's the Prophet 08 from Dave Smith. That seems quite interesting also. So that is my bird again. You guys just talk. But the Prophet 08 has got it's an 8-channel synthesizer module. People seem to be very pleased about it.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive if you consider what's in there. And it just comes in one package. I've been looking at that also.
The Shruthi is 145 euros plus 15 for the case, which I would definitely advise. It's a nice case.
Yeah.
It comes with it's a clear plexiglass type case, and I just painted the inside with candy apple red paint I got at the hobby store. I mean, it's still a little bit translucent, and I masked off the area where the LEDs show through.
Awesome.
It looks real nice.
Can you show a closer look of it, or is that difficult?
I think I can here. Any help?
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, it turned out real good.
Yeah.
And it's fairly straightforward to put together. Just don't want to. Sorry about that. The one problem I had was with the 40-pin microprocessor chip, which when I was putting it in its socket, I got 39 pins in and one bent, and I pulled it out, tried to straighten the pin, and the pin fell off. So I had to buy another one. But he was the guy that runs Mutable was very quick and good about it, and I had it in a little over a week, which is pretty good considering it's in France.
Right.
And and then what I did is I went out while I was doing that, and I bought a IC insertion tool for a 600 mil 40-pin dual inline package. And so, because I didn't want to do the same thing twice, and that worked pretty good. The other thing I would recommend possibly is they have 0 insertion force sockets for 40-pin chips. You need to get the low-profile type, but I think it will fit in there with the low-profile type, which you just flip a lever and it closes all the sockets on the pins. So that's probably the best way to go, because that's actually less expensive than the insertion tool is. So. And it's probably a little bit less tricky. But everything else in that went together real good. It's a fairly it's a fairly spacious circuit board, and the circuit board's real high quality. And so I had no real trouble with it other than that one little thing there.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm impressed with the sound and the programmability and the interface and everything else, and the fact that you have a lot of the parameters available as continuous control messages. So I mean, I'm using Ableton right now to experiment with this thing because it's the easiest, quickest, most graphic way to do it.
Yes.
But what I can do is I can actually start, besides sending notes from Ableton, I can send continuous control parameters, and then I can unlink those in the same clip so that they're actually running separately. So I might have a little 2 or 3 note thing that runs every 4 measures, and then I might be controlling the filter cutoff with another thing. And that might be 4 measures and 3 beats. So they get them running and they run out of sync. So it's an unusual way to do things, but it's a lot of fun. And the controllability is just amazing, and the sound quality. I'm just blown away by it. I'm running through a Lexicon MX200, which is basically just adding a little bit of reverb, which helps a little bit.
It
but
does,
even without that, it still sounds fantastic. And of course, the Lexicon's got all sorts of other effects if you want, flangers and choruses and all that typical type of stuff if you want to get into that. But I just added a little bit of reverb, and I'm having enough fun working with everything else because the sounds change so rapidly, and they're full, evolving, very interactive feeling sounds, and you can also change them real easily with little changes in the different parameters, which you can either do, like I said, by continuous control. You can also twiddle the knobs on the front and make those changes. But he's got a lot of stuff in there. He even has patch chords in the software. I thought you'd like that. So you have things that will modulate things. Then you have things that will accept the modulation. Right. And you can hook those things together by what he calls patch chords. So you patch this into that, and you can get an amount on it also, whether it's full through or whether it's filtered a little bit, and then so you can, it's like having patch chords, which I thought was kind of cute.
Well, I'm still thinking of getting one.
I think it's the best value for the money that I've seen, definitely, and also the size is very convenient and compact.
Yeah. Well, there's the Tetra from Dave Smith that I've been looking at also. Tetra 4.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's four channels. It goes for 640 euros. So that's it's kind of similarly priced, yeah. It's 4 channels. You would buy 4
compared to four. Yeah. Okay.
So and the Prophet 08 is double of that. So it seems they're all kind of in the same league in terms of prices. It's the Moog Slim Fatty is totally different. It's like six times the price.
And the trouble is, it's hard to just go out and sample which ones, try them out.
It's difficult.
Yeah, okay. I would like to get all 4 of these and compare them in the same room.
Yeah, and then one day I'm thinking, okay, I want a 4-channel polyphonic setup that is able to, play the same sound, but round robin over the different channels. Then I think to myself, well, maybe it might be interesting to get actually different analog synths and look at it as different channels that don't actually work polyphonically, but different monophonic lines with different sounds being created by different analog synths. And then I just go back and forth. I just can't make up my mind.
Well, they all have their places and applications. This is monophonic, but sometimes it sounds almost polyphonic. Certain sounds, if you just start, I don't know if you can hear that, but if you just start and just start keep your keys down, you play an arpeggio, it sounds like you're playing a chord because of the sustain on the first notes keeps going, I guess. But it sounds polyphonic sometimes. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's interesting. No end to the experimentation I can do with it. And then it also has a sequencer and an arpeggiator and things like that, which you can add into it, which not only is what you consider a typical sequencer or arpeggiator, but some of them actually change the way the thing sounds. So it's almost a sound shaping parameter rather than just a time parameter.
Right.
So there's a lot in there. I was amazed. I'm still learning. Still trying to hook all this stuff up.
So the SMR4 filter, right, is the one you got?
Yeah, that's the standard when you buy the kit. You get the top control board, and then you get the SMR4 filter.
Right.
Now he has other filter boards, but it's up to you to find the parts to go in it.
Okay.
and put it together. So that's a little bit more involved.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, so you have a list of materials, and you have to go to your electronic supply place and buy a bunch of resistors and capacitors and some of the integrated circuits and things like that.
Yes.
So that's a little bit more involved. So the SMR4, I guess it's called, is the easiest way to go, and it's a very versatile filter. You can either run a 4-pole or a 2-pole setup. There's a jumper inside there, so it's not, unless you wired it differently, it's not accessible from the outside. But I would highly recommend it, and I've mentioned to a couple people that saw my posts on Facebook or something that I would be willing to build one if they didn't think they wanted to attempt that for $150. I think I can do it in about 10 hours. So it gives me like $15 an hour for my work. So
yeah,
my expertise. So I don't know if anybody's interested in that or not. Well,
it's clumsy.
It took me closer to 2 months, but I mean that was not actual time working on it. I would do a little bit of this and think things through and think, well, maybe I want to modify this or I want to add that, and I'd have to go to the store and find something, and I'd come back for 20 minutes and then not work on it for 3 days, that type of thing. But since I used to do some of this kind of for a living, I think I can estimate my time pretty close, and I think I could do it in under 10 hours.
Right.
If I just stuck to it and made it like a production line.
I see it has formant synthesis. Have you tried that?
The what?
On their page, they talk about formant synthesis. It's sort of a fixed resonance. It's used in vocal sounds.
Yeah. I'm not sure because so far I've just been mostly working with the presets they have, which is over 100. And I think some of the presets have that, but I haven't gone through looking through all the details because it's they don't have a list of all the settings for each preset. You'd have to go through.
I'll be right back.
Page by page.
Oh, that'd be page by page, 10 characters at a time or something like that, right?
Yeah, well, you have 4 settings per page, and there's a lot of pages in there, depending what's going on there. So it would take a while to figure all that out.
Hey, Mike?
Yes?
I asked Garrett earlier before you joined that it seemed like one of the reasons so many of you guys spend time finding VSTs and other third-party instruments that are already constructed is just because you don't have to get involved in the program issues, that it's really more a matter of actually spinning a knob or accessing a sound that's already been created. And apropos of that, have you been finding any kinds of sounds that really do seem to be very high quality sounds? In other words, yeah, and then I had another question about the quality of the sound itself.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you asking if I've just found any sort of canned sounds that I think are great?
Yeah,
yeah, well, PianoTeq,
Yeah,
which I've resisted for the longest time. I normally, at a minimum, tweak sounds. So I think in terms of presets, great presets, it's almost an oxymoron, right? Particularly if you're playing it with a novel controller like the Eigenharp, because the control curves are, and actually the physical, like the physiology of the interface is different than a keyboard. So, even if they were great presets playing it on a keyboard, they aren't necessarily great presets played on an Eigenharp. Not that that's hard to deal with. It's just, out of the box, I usually find they need a bit of tweaking. Was that your question?
That's skirting around it, yes. So like the PianoTeq, you say has a really great sound, and is that sound does that have anything to do with sample files, or or is it all programming?
Well, PianoTeq is a model, so the answer to that question doesn't have to do with the samples.
Right.
And I guess, reflecting on it, I probably prefer models to samples, generally speaking.
And is there any kind of correlation between the size of the sample file and the quality of the sound?
Sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
If it's made well, if it's sampled well, you can create a huge amount of badly sampled files.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what a couple of years ago I got just some samples to see if I could plug them in some way to my Korg M3, and there were like several thousand samples of ethnic instruments, and most of them were just totally unusable and really pretty bad. And so I was wondering if there really was much of anything better out there.
Oh, there are awesome sample libraries. There's I think I've got like 200 gigs of sample instruments.
Yeah.
And they are just sounding amazing. So yes, there's a lot of companies that specialize specifically in that, and that create, anything from traditional things that replace members of a traditional pop rock band to ethnic instruments to kitchen cutlery that's being used as instruments to bees that are humming and creating instruments out of that. It gets very interesting.
So what do you think are the best for the ethnic instruments?
Well, I personally am not an ethnic instrument guy. But there's the thing from Motu, I've heard, Ethno too. I've heard people speak very well about that. The thing with that, though, is I think that there's also a lot of automation going on, playing phrases automatically and stuff like that. So that you probably have to turn off. But Mike, you have that, right?
Which?
Ethno?
No, I only have raw from East West.
Right.
It would be nice to have a comparison between Ethno and raw.
Well, you can buy Ethno, and I have raw, and then we'll have a comparison.
Well, I think you're on. I think you got something there.
I have to say, I don't use raw very much. Now, partly it's because I don't use the instruments. Partly it's, play is a bit wonky. I mean, it works fine. It's just sort of slow to load and that kind of thing. And it just doesn't come up that often. I mean, honestly, I probably use AAS stuff, now PianoTeq, hardware stuff like the VL1 and the Moog. Gert managed to convince me to buy Orange Tree for the guitar, and that was worthwhile. And it's much better than AAS's modeled strumming guitar.
What's AAS?
Applied acoustics.
Oh, okay.
And AAS are not very expensive. The AAS String Studio is fine. The presets range from adequate string models to crazy stuff. Some of which are very appealing, especially if you take them to extremes, like way out of their octave range. Their basses are good as well. I use the AAS String Studio for basses all the time.
What about for concert instruments?
Well, Ferdinand found the best string orchestra one I've heard yet. What was that one, Gert?
I can't remember. I didn't buy it, so.
I did, and I don't remember. I'll find it. Hold on. And it was a great price. I didn't buy the whole orchestra. I just bought the solo instruments as opposed to the sections.
I guess it's for Kontakt. I got in Komplete 8. They had some ethnic instruments, African, which I thought sounded very good and were fun to play with. Because depending on how you use the keys on the Eigenharp, it made a big difference in the sound you're getting. And I thought the sounds were nice.
Yeah, and Battery actually has some really good ethnic drumming sets in Kontakt. Really good drumming sets. And it works very interestingly, the way it maps keys.
Yeah, so I mean, the general question about quality sounds, I think there's a lot of them out there. I've even found some nice SF2 sound font files that use in the built-in sampler instruments that come in the Eigenharp that they're available for free out there, and I thought some of those were very nice sounding and a lot of fun to play with. Again, the way they responded to the keys was interesting. There was definitely a lot of interaction in how you played it and how they sounded and worked. And also I noticed that using the built-in sampler in Eigenharp is a lot of the controls that are available, like you find in Stage, make a big difference on how the sample that you load in sounds. You load it in first, and it doesn't sound that great. You tweak a couple of the sliders or knobs or something, all of a sudden it sounds tremendously better. And that varies from sample to sample too.
So does the Pico have the same controllability for each key?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Garritan, I tried that, but never really had a lot of time to work with it because it was just I don't have it in the VSL library. And I found them. What I found was kind of very difficult to play live with. Seems more for scoring than for live performance.
If you stick it in a DAW and you can do all the controls around what you're trying to play, it's fine. But to actually play it, I don't think Vienna Symphony is really designed for that at all.
No.
If you stick it in what?
If you
digital audio workstation. If you kind of manually map out the controls on... Because Garritan on the chat is asking, has anyone tried Vienna Symphonic Library, VSL? So yeah, for live playing, it never felt... well, never. I tried it once. It didn't feel right to me.
But that you can do things with it if you're not doing live work, like in the studio.
Yes, it's been designed for that. It's been designed for composers that want to mock up whole orchestras.
And I was wondering about that. I saw that a few years ago. It's been out for a long time, I guess.
Yes. There was another one that was released like a year and a half ago. I can't remember the name. Was supposed to be better than VSL.
Well, there's Garritan, but I find their products are unconvincing.
Let's see if I can find something about that.
The Motu one?
No, I don't think I saved what I found about that. No.
So does the VSL have like a software
LA scoring
manipulating
strings?
Scoring strings.
LA scoring strings. That was the one I saw a while ago. And people were talking very highly of it, but I don't know what it does for live playing.
I think most of the full symphonic ones are really going to be something that you'd put in a DAW and map out the individual articulations in meticulous detail. I mean, really, that's the target, right?
Otherwise, you're trying to control 10 instruments with one key. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but is that going to sound convincing like really 10 separate instruments? Because each one's going to have their own nuances in the real world, at least. So.
Well, so that one that Ferdinand was bought was the KirkHunter one. I just posted the link there on the sidebar.
Oh, KirkHunter Studios.
And at some point he had a great demo. He and I had a great back and forth, and every time I raised an objection, he solved it in like 5 minutes. So I ended up buying the solo one myself, and it is very good. It's I don't know if I can remember the link he had to his demo of it. It's a MP3 demo, which was, you know, for having had the product for an hour and a half, it's an amazing demo. Let's see if I can find it.
So where's Ferdinand when you need him?
But I think that for Ferdinand it also works very nicely due to the way he sets up his Eigenharp. Is that
yes.
He switches the layout 90 degrees, so that what does he call it? Is it a vertical layout that he calls that?
Yeah, that's what he calls it.
So that instead of so that you can play chords much more easily that are far apart. So instead of playing, yeah, don't remember exactly, but the thing is though that he plays like he plays more like that to be able to play this, which is probably fine, but I think it's difficult to play that with a strap. So, but for what he does is it sounds amazing. The demo that he gave us during the developers conference, because he can. It feels natural to play full scores with it because each finger is basically an instrument, and it's quite easy to make huge jumps and stuff like that. So.
That's his demo. Oh, I hope it's still there. I didn't check.
Okay.
So is there any way of like pasting or saving these links that you guys are posting on the
well, you feel free to copy them and put them on the wiki.
I don't know how to do that.
I just highlight them with my arrow and my mouse or my mouse pad. I highlight them and then I just do Control C I have a PC computer, and then I just go open up a new text file and just paste it into it. Then I can work it from there.
Or you can just open it and save it as a bookmark.
Yeah, you can do that too.
That's right. Very good idea. Oh, you're brilliant, Mike.
I don't know. Struck me as pretty obvious.
Well, you know, sometimes those real simple connections aren't that obvious.
Let's see. I use my laptop PC for these Hangouts and stuff, but usually when I'm doing browsing and other stuff, I go on my desktop with the big screen monitor rather than the smaller one. So that's the quick way that I transfer things over. Just put it on a memory stick. And
oh, you mean your bookmarks don't just synchronize? You must be on a Windows machine.
Of course I'm on a Windows machine. I like plugging the memory sticks in and out. I think it's fun. Because I'm still fascinated by them. I go, you get 8 gigabytes on that little tiny thing?
Yeah, actually, they handed out a really nice little memory stick at the Canon event I was invited to. Hold on, I'll show you.
No, I go way back with memory. I used to work in memory test in the 80s at Motorola. I fixed and calibrated the machines that did the memory testing of the finished products. And so, I mean, seeing what it is nowadays compared to what it was in the mid-80s is just amazing. It's still like magic to me.
So this was Canon's little handout. And it actually is a memory stick. But it's also a little model of the Canon camera they were
I like that.
And they have their demo movie on it in its full 1.5 gig high-def form. It's an astounding camera, just unbelievable, out of my price range.
I just interestingly found that if I click on your link, Mike, as soon as I get over there, I can download the video, the demonstration, and then it'll just save to the desktop,
Yep.
which is really great. So that's really neat to do that. Are there any other really great demos that you guys know about for Eigenharp that you could post links for?
Anything that Gert did.
Yeah, orange. I mean, Gert has a couple that are a good demonstration of Orange Tree.
He has a lot of good demos up there for the Eigenharp.
When you say up there, where is that?
Well, YouTube.
YouTube, I guess.
Oh, just look on YouTube.
You go on YouTube, and my channel has a whole bunch of Eigenharp stuff.
Okay.
There you go.
That's what sold me on the Alpha.
And other stuff.
Oh, really? Really? Oh.
Little did I know what I was getting into, but it just gets better all the time, actually.
Huh.
Yep, that's one of my favorite things. I don't think I've run into a single person who really knew what they were getting into when they bought an Eigenharp. It's always like, oh, I thought it was blank, fill in the blank, but it's and the good news is they eventually come to the understanding that it's actually more than they expected.
Well, that's exactly where I am, because a couple of months ago, I was seeing that. I mean, when I look at something, look at all the specs, look at all the information out there, and don't have a clue what it is, then it has to be something kind of like different, something beyond, whatever the.
It is.
Yeah, and so that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to.
And with Workbench and Stage and the new 2.0 plus whatever it is going to be, there's so much versatility in if you want to get down into it, how you make it. Like I just asked Gert a question about using the alpha on my little mini synthesizer here, where I would have the keyboard split into 2 or more units, and one unit would just be playing notes, and then the pitch bend and maybe modulation or something, but depending how you rolled the key or yawed the key, and then I could have all the other keys set up to send the continuous controller messages, which would allow me to tweak all the parameters inside the thing on the fly as I was playing.
Wow.
So I could have one hand playing notes, and the other hand I could actually be modifying what the sound was doing.
Wow.
Which I don't know how practical or useful that's going to be, but it's an interesting idea, and that's one of the things that you can configure it for. I haven't started doing that yet, but if Gert says it's doable, then I'm not worried about it. Eventually I'll learn how.
It's actually, Larry, if you just take the Alpha MIDI setup that I posted a couple of months ago, there's already, I think, 4 buttons that are ready to actually send up MIDI CC directly. So and the rest of the keyboard is a playing area. So you can just look at this. This is pre-Workbench, so you can just look at the script and see. I think it's documented, and see how it's done, and then kind of reduce the area of playing and add in some more CC messages, and should do what you want.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how keepable or usable, or if I wanted to keep doing that, but it was just a thought that came in my head because it's available.
Yes.
Try
it. One thing I still want to do is there's this thing about how do you make the keys. So there's one thing of sending out CC messages. That's technically is not a problem. But how do you make the physicality of the key or the Eigenharp be practical to control CC messages with? Yeah. Which is another thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also you have 2 axes. You can go yaw and roll, and each one could send a different CC, I guess.
You can do that. The other thing that I thought was a great idea, and I think I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was Garrett. Was to point the key to a place on its circumference, the same way you'd turn a dial.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I already did one of that, which is a kind of an absolute. It does the radius and angle part.
Yeah.
Radius and elevation, part.
What does CC mean?
Continuous control. It's kind of it's what you. Let's say that you've got a volume that you control on a MIDI sound, and you can control it from 0 to 127, and these messages can change continuously, and it's kind of there's a specific channel for volume and specific channel for modulation, a specific channel for. So that's continuous control, MIDI CC. The thing with that, though, is if it's this absolute position, it's very difficult to be precise with.
Sure.
So one thing that I'm thinking, but still haven't had time for it, is to make something as that would kind of count the rotations you do with a key. So instead of having it being an absolute position, it would kind of increment or decrement a value that stays fixed. And that if you want to move up the volume, then you kind of rotate. You use a key here, and then you go like this. Okay, no, that's too loud. Go down a bit, and you kind of turn it around. I think that might work well, actually, provided that the detection of the rotations is implemented in a forgiven way, but not too forgiven.
Yeah, that's interesting. My original thought was just you'd push the key, yaw it in one direction, that would increase it, and then you'd yaw it in the other direction, and it would decrease it. And when you stop pushing it, it would just stay where you put it.
Right.
That's how I was visualizing it. But
it's very difficult given the amount of travel that you have on an Eigenharp key to for it to be very precise enough to be usable.
Well, I mean, could
just give me a second.
Okay.
So. Yeah, Larry, I've had the same challenge getting it to work properly. But I think that it's just a matter of getting the resolution right with respect to the...
Was it someone else's phone?
Well, it wasn't mine.
Yeah, it was my phone, and the answering machine's picking up if there's...
Okay,
if there's actually anybody on there.
You answer the door when my clock rings. You answer the phone when Larry's answering machine works. We've got you wired.
I didn't realize it was coming through my microphone that well because I couldn't hardly hear it. But it was my phone that just rang.
But I'm waiting for some reason. That's why.
For some reason, the telemarketers always call when I'm on the Hangout. Of course, they always hang up on my answering machine anyhow. So.
You actually have an answering machine?
It's built into my telephone.
Oh, okay.
I have one of those wireless telephones. You plug into the wall, and it goes to a landline. But then, the phone itself is not tied in. I can walk around the house, walk out in the yard and stuff with it. And there's an answering machine that comes in the base station. So that's how I deal with telemarketers because they're terrible down here. I mean, sometimes I get calls 9:30 at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I just let my answering machine screen the calls because I get tired of talking to them. And I figure anybody that hangs up on my answering machine is not somebody I want to talk to. It's probably a telemarketer, or sometimes it might be a wrong number, but the people I want to talk to, my friends and so forth, they are going to leave a message, and most of them know that if they talk for a few seconds, I'll pick up the phone.
Right, yes. It's a good way of screening it. Yeah.
Well, it's about the only way you can do it. They had these do not call lists and all these other things, but nobody's enforcing it, so nobody's paying attention to them now. So it's just getting worse and worse is the way I feel about it.
I am definitely getting the feeling with the Eigenharp and all of the software and all of that stuff that it's very much like being launched into space in a great big bucket with a bunch of parts, and once you're up there, you get a message saying, okay, do something with all of this.
That's actually not true. You really can just take any one of these instruments out of the box, plug it in, and play it. And I was just sitting here thinking, when you were talking, Larry, it's ironic because just as version 2 came out, I went completely wild, and I've started doing almost nothing but just playing.
Oh. And how did version 2 make make that much difference?
Nothing. But, I mean, everybody else, of course, immediately started customizing and tweaking, and I more or less stopped. It's just ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
sometimes you have to divide it up.
It's important to divide it up. I think I said this before already, but I don't know if Jeff was there. But quite a bunch of courses that I followed in audio engineering, like online courses and stuff like that. One of the main things they say is when you're mixing, and I think the same applies to the Eigenharp, when you're playing, don't delve into the settings of the plugins.
Yeah.
Just as when you're mixing, don't try out a new plugin when you're mixing. That is something that you do when you've got time scheduled to try out new plugins or to try out a new setup. And you've got to clearly separate them. If you don't do that, you'll be eternally and forever trying stuff out.
That's right, and you won't be getting your work done. You won't be making a recording like when I was running sound for the church.
Yes,
I mean,
or you
I
won't
had to
be
come up
playing
with,
any
with
music.
recordings every Sunday, you know.
Or you won't be playing any music with the Eigenharp. You will just only be, running around parameters and trying out some new plugins and chaining them together differently, and you never make any real sound.
I've actually spent now hours doing nothing but playing 12-bar blues bass patterns with a stupid drum loop on my left hand.
All right.
And it's fun. And my left hand's really bad. And I think on an earlier Hangout, I had said to Garrett, what does it mean to play rhythm Eigenharp? But if we ever are going to get together and play, somebody's got to do the dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da part, and I guess it's going to be me.
Yeah, bass and rhythm are the two foundations. Without those, it's really hard to get a good sound.
I did get a really good set of blues loops from
I remember that. Yeah.
Drums on Demand, I think.
Yeah, I personally, every day, and this is something that I do religiously, is every day for half an hour I just purely practice, which starts off with scales and then goes into chords and inversions and pure technical practice of the instruments. And if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I haven't done it yet, and I will do it before going to bed, even though I'm falling asleep over the instrument. You have to reserve that time if you want to get any better at any kind of instrument. It's the only way of getting better.
Yeah, that's true of anything, yeah.
10,000 hours, right?
Yes.
But you got to keep it up after you get the 10,000 hours, or else it goes away.
But I don't think anyone is even remotely near 10,000 hours on an Eigenharp. It's just physically impossible.
Yeah,
hasn't existed long enough yet.
I've noticed that on the guitar too. I mean, you have to play it a certain amount of time every day, or else you're actually sliding backwards.
Oh yeah.
Just to maintain where you're at, you have to keep up a certain amount of actual hands-on, moving the fingers, moving the brain type of stuff.
Interestingly, it's the same independently for acoustic and electric guitar. I haven't played acoustic in quite a while. I'm playing electric quite frequently, and we had to do an audition last Wednesday, which was acoustic guitar. So I picked it up the day before and was like, "Oh my God, it's only been 2 months, and this is horrible. I've lost it." It came back after a few hours, but that's each instrument needs continuous practice.
They're totally. I mean, and if you get down to the real fine details, I mean, just switching from one acoustic to another acoustic makes a difference.
Yes.
Each has their own characteristics. Like I have acoustics that are great for finger picking, but you got to be really careful when you strum them, or else you overdrive the top.
Yeah. Because
they're made to be sensitive for finger picking. So you have to learn a different technique, even though they're both 6-string acoustics.
Yes.
That's what makes this all so interesting, I guess. If it was easy, it wouldn't be near as much fun, would it? We'd get bored with it.
I guess that gets back to the idea of tweaking plugins, too, for Eigenharp. Because, again, even just for different pieces of music, it's worth at least tweaking to get the velocity curve right, to get up into its higher velocity range, perhaps, without overdriving it. I don't think anybody who is serious about making any particular sound doesn't do a certain level of tweaking almost every time they decide to do something new.
Yes.
That sounds right.
And some of that tweaking is savable and some of it's not, as you guys were talking about a week or two ago?
No, most of it is all savable. It's just except sometimes there are bugs that are there in any kind of software. There was a bug in Omnisphere that I hit, which I solved. It was basically an installation problem that didn't, a newer version assumed that it was installed a certain way, but over the upgrades it wasn't installed a certain way anymore. And it didn't solve that problem itself. So after I solved that, then it was okay again. But most of it is savable, except
I don't have any trouble saving it.
Except some
I
of
have
the
trouble
things
remembering
in analog synthesis, but it's totally different.
That's just what I've started to realize. Oh, how do I save those settings that are on the Shruthi? I mean, I can save it in the Shruthi, but I can't save it in my DAW because it doesn't do that. Whereas a plugin in my DAW, it saves all my settings on it when I save it along with the Ableton stuff.
Yes, it's one of the problems. And the other problem also is, though, that since it's analog, it's actually never the same, even though the dials are exactly at the same spot or the values are the same. The sound will, it needs to warm up, and depending on how long it's warmed up, the sound will be different, and based on the, the surroundings, it might have been detuned or, a whole bunch of things. So it will never be the same.
Yeah, and on a knob, the amount of turn you have to input to make quite a difference in the sound on analog synths is trivial. So even taking a picture of the front board isn't going to get you quite back where you started.
No, it's impossible. It's just, I've been trying. I'm still trying. I'm totally convinced that I should be able to try to get this. I've got this sound in my Slim Fatty, and I want to get it into another to a software plugin, and it's always just a tiny little bit too far to one side, but just the fact that you've got 4 different knobs that interact makes it exponentially difficult. It's an online flash talk. You can write down the knob position. Yeah, but writing that down, is actually the problem. That what is it? Is it 2.01 or 2.015 or 2.016? Because they all sound different.
Yeah, the good thing about analog synths is they're really responsive. The bad thing about analog synths is that they're really responsive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it gets really tricky when you've got like dual oscillators or your triple oscillators. If one of them is not set exactly as it was, then the other will not sound right with it. And if they're both a little bit off, then it's just horrible. And then the envelopes of the filter, if those are not exactly lined up with the envelopes of the volume, then you will not the same resonance. And oh my god, it's but it's interesting.
Despite all those little limitations, I'm still extremely happy that I have the
me too.
The separate synthesizer. It's just really a lot of fun to play with.
I'm starting to really love my Slim Fatty. It's this thing about the responsiveness. Exactly what Mike said. It's extremely responsive. Yeah. And Moog does a very, very good job at saving all of this. So the patches that are in there are very easy to save, and it behaves correctly when you modify it, and it responds to 14-bit MIDI if you put some decimation on it. And so that's one of the nice things about the Slim Fatty, which go back to the beginning, is I don't know what I'm gonna do next, because I really like the convenience factor, and I guess that the Prophet 08 has a little bit of that also, because it allows you to save everything precisely also. But I think the Shruthi saves it inside the instrument.
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, I can make all the changes, and I can save that as a as a preset.
Right,
It's got a whole bunch of empty slots.
You
in
do know
in the
that
memory.
that is a luxury in analog synth land.
Yeah. But because the whole thing is kind of based on the digital control board, it makes it so that it's pretty easy
Yes.
for him to do that.
Yeah.
Because all the settings are in a RAM type situation.
Exactly.
In there.
Yeah.
So you can just save it, give it a name, and then you can come back to it later.
Yeah.
I'm back again.
Welcome back.
I think we're just about at time here anyways.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, jeez.
It
It goes by so
quickly.
quick.
Yeah, amazing. So I've been having a lot of fun today. I'm trying to rebuild a new setup from scratch for myself. Just thinking of the things that I like about Eigen D1 and the things that I use there, and kind of rearrange them using Workbench to be as the way that I play. It's nice. It's interesting. Kind of thinking about how you can rearrange things and do things differently.
It also loads faster because there's a lot of stuff you're not putting in there that normally loads in a factory.
It loads in 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I personally never use the arrangers and actually barely use any of the recorders. All these things. I really, actually, personally, don't care much about them at this point in my learnings, learning of the Eigenharp.
Well, I mean, I also find that something like Ableton, it's easier for me to use their graphic interfaces and so forth to do things like arrangers and looping and recording and things like that, because I have it, so easy to see what's going on the screen, where the Eigenharp is a little bit, scrolling back and forth and things like that. It's a little bit harder to see what you're doing.
It's another approach. It's made for not looking at the screen, right?
Yeah,
it's
I
made for
understand.
when you're standing on stage and be able to use it that way, which has advantages and disadvantages. But just personally, I've never felt comfortable with step sequences, arrangers, or loopers. Even though I'm amazed to see what people do with them, I never really personally feel comfortable using them.
Yeah, I don't think the arrangers are mature yet. I mean, every time I go to use them, I find that I run up against, I can't quite do that. So,
yeah.
But I think they will get there, and I think they'll be quite useful. They're just a work in progress, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a first cut at it, and we've got plans for better versions.
Yeah.
I mean, most recently it was sort of, let's do blues and let's use the arranger to do the bass, and of course it doesn't actually do, or at least I can't figure out how to get it to do things like triplets,
right.
or shuffle time stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, plus I think in a live performance situation too, is that going against some sort of a mechanized type of thing, like a sequencer or even a drum machine, leaves a lot to be desired. Sometimes you're forced into it because you don't have a drummer, but it always seemed to lack something if you try to do it in a live performance.
I agree. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a huge market for those little wooden stomp boxes.
Yeah. It's also why drummers are in great demand. If you're a decent drummer around here, I mean, I don't know how much you make, but you sure get a lot of job offers.
Okay. So, well, it was a fun one again.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, guys, we'll catch you either maybe Wednesday or next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm going to be at 4 o'clock on Wednesday again. Hope some people show up.
Okay. I'll maybe be there. You never know. Kind of depends. Bye.
Well, you're always welcome.
Yeah,
you're always
late.
welcome. It's
I know. It's
it
late.
definitely draws more people to Wednesday when you're here, Gert.
Well, it's late at night for me, so it's.
I understand.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It depends if I'm falling asleep or not. And the last few weeks have been quite quite fatiguing. So it's difficult to stay up that late.
Understood. Understood. And I mean, 4 o'clock is not necessarily written in stone. That's just what we agreed upon quite a few months ago for the few people that were asking for a different time slot, because this one was difficult for them.
Yeah.
But attendance has dropped off, so I mean, maybe there's a better time that would still work for me.
But you could try. You can
that'd
try
be
to ask if people are interested in changing the slot. I'm keeping mine at this time basically because there will always be something that doesn't suit someone else. So so people are used to this time now, and I like our little gang. So
Works for me.
Yeah. Okay, well, see you next week or
Okay.
Wednesday. Bye.
Bye bye. Good talking
Thanks
to you.
for the suggestions, DK. Bye-bye.